Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. You're here with Tom and George. Happy Thanksgiving to those of you in the U.S.
A little fatter, George.
Aren't we all? But I'm here to report that it was a good week for Bitcoin. It was a very good week for the Bitcoin miners. There's a massive amount of news we're going to go through. The FUD out there is relentless right now, and I want to go through a bunch of that. And we'll take a look at what the Bitcoin miners did this week, as well as what Bitcoin did. And now the month of November, this was the last trading day for the month of November. Not for Bitcoin, of course, and the cryptocurrencies, but for the equities. So we're going to see how November turned out, because we had a lot of good months in a row going, and November was a nightmare, but we ended strong. So we'll see where it all lands. A bunch of other stuff going on. How are you, George?
Repressed jubilation.
Repressed jubilation?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Well, it might be. It could be good. It could be bad. I'll know next week.
Okay.
I'm nervous, Tom.
You're still nervous about another leg down?
I'm telling you, man. It seems like they got the perfect setup for us. You know, they talked about quantities easing starts Monday.
Right?
Right.
The official end of quantitative tightening, which essentially marks the beginning of quantitative easing. And honestly, they actually snuck ahead a little bit, and they've been doing some of that already. My
theory is that they're going to buy. I mean, my theory is, you know, because of that, they're just going to give us a little bit of, just a little tiny bit. I don't think it's going to be a crazy thing, but just enough to shake everybody out.
One last dose of pain to get whoever's holding on. Well, and
doesn't see you.
A lot of people probably started chasing this week, so you know it might be a good opportunity to shake those brand new people out. Let me just ask everybody.
I'm not saying any names or anything like that, but I'm hearing good news about the Fed chairman. Hearing good news of who it's going to be.
Right. So that's coming. The announcement may come sooner than later. The actual change comes, I think, in May. Just taking a break to ask to please smash the like button if you would, the thumbs up button. It does help the stream out in real time. We're here every Friday for the last 4.5 years. The market was open in the U.S. for a half day.
Okay.
And it was a good half day. We're getting a request to put a poll up. You got one, or you want me to do one?
No, I don't have one.
I'm gonna start right out. Let's see.
I'm gonna be a little distracted, guys. I ain't lying. I'm watching the Georgia Tech game.
Oh no.
Georgia just is going to tie it up here. 3-3.
All right. So this is two totally opposite directions. Where's Bitcoin going next? 100K? You know, we hit 80. A lot of people were talking about much lower numbers than that. And I saw a national survey of this exact poll right here. So I'm not going to tell you what the results of that was, but until we're done with our vote, and then we'll see how we compare with the general population. So it was which one's going to happen next, Bitcoin 100K or go down and retest 69K. I will tell you, I don't know if massive is the right word. It might be. There's a very, very, very large group of people saying that the crypto winter has begun. The bull market's over. The crypto winter's begun.
I'm sorry, but that could be the stupidest statement ever. And I know the 50-week moving average, the 200 daily, I know we've broken them all. But with the activity that's going on, Tom, I just don't think it's over with.
I think this is a layup. This is the easiest setup I've seen. And, be careful with what you wish for. This is not financial advice. Things can go the wrong way. But if ever there was a setup for a huge run in Bitcoin in the next year, on a macro level, to me, everything is screaming that that's what's going to happen. The only thing that's screaming that that's not going to happen is this dogma of a 4-year cycle. And, technically this month marks the end of the 4-year cycle. And so from that standpoint, if history were to repeat itself, and if you go back and look at these cycles, yes, there has been, remember, it's brand new. We're only talking about 3 cycles. So it's not like this is some 100-year track record or anything like that. The last 3 times it was a halving, things tended to resemble, the price action resembled it, the first 3. That's just not going to happen this time. And the thing is, if you're paying attention, it already hasn't happened. So if it didn't happen going up, what reason is there to believe that just despite all the other macro things going on in the market, that Bitcoin is somehow just destined for this crypto winter and the bull market's over and it's all bad from here? I just don't see it. To your point, George, are they going to beat us up once or twice more? They're going to do more than that. We know we just got a 35% pullback. That is the worst pullback we've had since the last crypto winter. We've had 2 other 30% pullbacks in this, couple of year bull market that we're in. So we don't really drift too far outside of where we've been. We've had between 20% and 30%. We've had like 5 or 6 of those in this bull market. So this is pretty normal price activity, in my opinion. And they've always been a buying opportunity. So, there's a few indicators that say, maybe the bull market's over. And again, if you look at those indicators, they have a grand track record of like being right 2 out of 2 times. That's not a real high confidence level. I'd rather go with something that's been right 80% of the time, and it's been tested 100 times, than something that's been, right every time, but every time is twice. You're not even trending yet at 2 or 3.
I don't know if you remember this, but I will hold myself to what I said. I said, man, I want to say it was almost 6 months ago. I think that I still don't change the fact that I'm going to say this, I'm going to change it a little bit. I thought we were going to have a God candle the first quarter of 2026. I think we're going to have a God candle sometime next year. That's my change.
So you've expanded it to sometime in 2026 versus the first quarter.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a 150 to 175 Bitcoin, and I think that the chances of it going below 100 again will be slim. Not saying it couldn't happen, but it'd just be going to be slim.
I'm going to get to
Don.
Yeah, Dan, thank you for the super chat. And Dan said, "Will Mara hit $20 in 3 months? Or if not, how soon?" ? So I'll give you my opinion. I'm always hesitant to answer time frame questions because you guys know this is a waiting game. It just is. But I will first I'll answer, in my opinion, is Marathon going to get back up to 20? That's way below my Marathon price target. So that's my personal opinion, not financial advice. Whether it's going to get there in the next 3 months, that's not quite a double up from here. But the reality is, if you go to Marathon's chart here, if you go to Marathon's chart, look at how perfectly this held support. This was back in April. We just bounced off it again, just almost perfectly last week. And now here we are on the way up again. And where are we on the way up to? We were just at 23 a month ago, right? A month and a half ago. So the concept of Marathon getting back to 20, that's not crazy talk. We were there last month. So I think that's highly possible in a 3-month time frame, but I'm not putting a clock on it. I'm just, and I will tell you, it's one of a few things that I continued to dollar cost average every single week for the last month. I've dollar cost averaged into Marathon. Again, that's me. It's not financial advice. Everybody's in a different situation. You got to understand your own profile, and you got to understand Marathon, and you got to have conviction in it, because you're going to live through, if you want to win on something like Marathon, you have to live through things like this. And not very many people live through things like that. It's just too brutal, right? Because that's a 58% pullback in a month and a half. And for most people, that level of volatility is just too much. So you got to know who you are and how you invest. For me, this was like buy. So I bought, I think 4 weeks in a row. So I have conviction in Marathon. Do I think they're the best Bitcoin miner? No. Do I think they're the best company on the list? No. I think they're wildly underpriced. So if you look at market cap, if you do a market cap analysis, stock price can be misleading, although I will tell you, and there is an exception to this that happened this week, the at-the-market offerings were crazy in 2023 and the beginning of 2024. So you really had to pay attention to the stock price versus the market cap, because they were expanding so dramatically. But in 2025, there were virtually no at-the-market offerings from any of the Bitcoin miners. And again, there's an exception to that. This week, we'll get to that. Somebody announced an at-the-market offering this week for the first time I can remember in a long, long time. And that doesn't mean they're not borrowing money. There's been straight up conventional debt from these companies. There's been convertible debt from these companies. But they've moved towards that versus at the market offerings that were just massive dilution at, what was low numbers for a lot of those years, right? Much lower numbers than they are now, or than versus their peaks. Now, some of them did them at the right time, and they went and grabbed a bunch of money right at a local peak. And that can be frustrating because it'll cause the stock to go down. But long term, if you believe in that company, then they did the right thing. They went and got the money they needed when their stock price was the highest. That's what you want. You want them getting value for their stock if that's how they have to raise capital, because these are CapEx heavy companies. And that is the Bitcoin mining side of these companies. And it's also the high performance computing AI data center side of these companies. It's all heavily CapEx dependent. So they do need to raise money. But you guys all know, it was our number one complaint for 2 years. These at the market offerings they're diluting us. They're killing us. Well, they stopped. So I think that's a good thing. So I do think, like, for instance, Marathon a month ago was at 23. There's really nothing different. Bitcoin's pulled back. Bitcoin was at all-time high. So if you think it's the end, if you think this is the end of the bull market and we're headed into a crypto winter, then accordingly, you probably think Marathon isn't getting back up to this and it's going to go lower. I don't think that. I think we're going to take out new all-time highs convincingly in 2026.
I have to tell you something, Tom. Marathon, I I lost the most money on Marathon in my life out of any stock I've ever traded is Marathon.
It's not funny, but I'm laughing because it's not my, from a dollar standpoint, it's not my biggest position, but it should be, because I have been dollar cost averaging into Marathon, and I am still red. It's the only thing I'm red on. I'm up. Almost everything else in my portfolio is up over 100% because I dollar cost averaged in, even with these pullbacks. But not Marathon. Marathon, I am red on Marathon.
Somebody wrote about the story of JP Morgan and what they did. I guess they're the ones that shorted Microstrategy or Strategy. Did you hear about that, Tom?
I'm having trouble remembering. Somebody put out a report on Microstrategy. I got some of that, and if it's JP Morgan and I'm forgetting that specifically, I'm sorry, but it would be no surprise to me because JP Morgan's the number one Bitcoin and Bitcoin miner hater out there. Jamie Dimon called Bitcoin a pet rock. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's not confusing to me. I'm sure somewhere in one of my articles today I have some JP Morgan info, because of very seldomly do they go a week. They can't help themselves without throwing some FUD article out about Bitcoin and or the Bitcoin miners. And I got a bunch of things that I want to go through that, in my opinion, you guys can vote and say, I think the FUD is just peaking. And these are all the things you want to see that mark a bottom have either already happened or are in the middle of happening. And that's why I kept dollar cost averaging in. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I mean, look, here's Marathon. Look at Marathon stock. It got down. It touched this on the RS. This is the 1 day time frame. I have a line at 20 because that is a historic low for Marathon in the history of it trading. Well, it hit that last week. Simultaneously, it bounced off of a line of support. It is now recovering. It's still only at 35 on the RSI. So and at the same time, you can see, and again, this is not a guarantee because we can get faked out. Oftentimes we get to the brink of a bullish crossover on the MACD and we head back in the wrong direction. So there are no guarantees, but the most likely, this is one of those 80% rules. This has played out hundreds of thousands of times across the stock market. And, 80% of the time that you get this configuration, what comes next is a bullish crossover. So to me, I'd rather go with these types of odds. Like this setup is right here. We bounced off of a historic low on the RSI. We bounced off a line of support on the price action, and we're headed towards a bullish crossover. That's a good setup for Marathon. So when you ask, is it going to be 3 months? Maybe it's going to run, maybe this is going to be a V-shaped situation. Maybe it's going to take 6 months. I don't know. I don't even much care whether it takes 3 months or 6 months. To me, we can't, playing the guessing game is I just don't do it. See somebody saying Fred stinks. Listen, they've made some big, I should say big missteps. They have lagged behind on the high performance computing /AI portion of the program. And most of the other Bitcoin miners have had much better price action because they beat Marathon to the punch. Marathon had to recover from being an asset light company. So now they've been converting for several years ago. They changed their motto, but they used to not own any power, none, zero. That was their business model. We're asset light. We don't waste our money on stuff like that. Now, to be fair, it's been over 2 years ago that they said, nope, We got to build our infrastructure. We got to vertically integrate. In some ways, they're more vertically integrated. They have their own mining pool. But power is everything right now. And Marathon, there's several companies that have a much bigger pipeline of power coming online than Marathon does, despite the fact that Marathon has the most exahash of Bitcoin mining running by far out of anybody. Right, they're over 60, and there's 3 companies that are at 50. There's one at 40. Those have separated themselves. There's some others down in the 25 range. And then the rest, a lot of them are giving up. Some of them have quit. They're turning machines off. So it's running the spectrum.
I think this question that I just asked will help point people, or at least point people in the way that they think they should invest for next year.
So let's see. Are we in a recession? What about next year? So your 4 options are yes, we're in the middle of one. No, but next year will be worse. No, and next year will be better. Yes, but it will end in the first quarter. So interesting. We got kind of a split on this. We got we had an exact split until 1 second ago.
Well, I'm in the world. That's funny. I picked I said yes, but we'll end in the first quarter.
You're the only one.
I know.
Here's what I will say. I've seen every major financial institution come out in the last couple of weeks, and really a lot of them this week, including JP Morgan, come out and say 2026 is going to be a home run for the stock market. That is now, all of a sudden, that is now the prevailing wisdom. So take that with a grain of salt, because 3 weeks ago, it was, the end of the world as we know it. And now 2026 is going to be the best year ever. So there's a lot of groupthink that goes on in these large institutions.
Yeah, I gotta think that Mara has to turn a corner. I just don't know when.
I mean, their technical setup is fantastic right now, but they also have to do a good job. They didn't put, here's some disturbing news for Marathon. They did not do a monthly operational report in October. There's several companies that stopped in October. There's many companies that had already announced they're never doing one ever again. There's
but
only
why? I mean, they just changed. Where they added AI. Why would they do something so stupid?
I don't understand. And they didn't even come out like others have said. I'll give you for instance, IREN at early in the year, they said, listen, we're going to get up to 50 exahash in Bitcoin mining. They told us this back in January, right? It's now almost December. They said, we're going to get to 50 exahash and we're going to stop. That's it. We're stopping at 50. And then we're selling all our Bitcoin. We're not going to hodl this year. We're going to sell it all, and we're going to build out AI infrastructure. That's what we're good at. We are a data center company. They've been pounding the table on that for years, and they gave us a heads up. So they actually executed that plan. They did exactly what they told us they were going to do. And so they are the #1 performing stock of the year out of this group by far, because they did what they said they were going to do, and it was a good plan. Marathon hasn't put out guidance on their exahash in over a year. They just keep getting bigger and bigger. But now all of a sudden they're at 60, and there they sit. And now, so to finish IREN came out and said, it's no longer appropriate for us. We're at our 50 exahash. We're now focusing on high performance computing. We're not putting out a monthly Bitcoin report anymore. So I'm not happy about that, but they told us. And again, then they went and did that. Marathon, it's just been not a word. All of a sudden, there's just no monthly operation report. They've been giving operation reports for 4 years. Why stop now? And I can tell you, I know a lot of these companies have stopped, and we've been talking about this on this channel for months. These Bitcoin mining companies are trying to disassociate themselves from Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining because it is frowned upon in investing right now. I think that's going to change, but right now they're doing everything they can to distance themselves from even being associated with Bitcoin, even though still most of these companies have the vast majority of their revenue is from Bitcoin mining. That won't be true in 2026, and it really won't be true in 2027. But for now, it is true. But they've all stopped. I'll tell you, Bitfarms said no more monthly reports. We're turning off machines, and by the next halving, all our machines will be off. We're not interested in. They're gonna now which to me is perfect. They've already bought all the machines. They're taking the depreciation on all the machines. That's non-cash item. They've spent the money. They should get every penny's worth out of those machines that they possibly can. And the second each one turns not cash flow positive, they should turn them off.
The other one too.
So, and that's their plan. And I'm okay with that, right? Because they got up to 17 exahash. They were going to get to 35 exahash. A series of things happened to Bitfarms that were some of them inside of their control, some of them outside of their control. There was a massive hostile takeover attempt. Things did not. This stock got down to. Bitfarms is trading at $3.48 today, which is way off of its local highs. But 6 months ago, this was a 68-cent stock. And the big conversation was, when are they doing a reverse stock split? Because they're never getting back to $1. Well, from that 68 cents, they got over $6. So they have turned things around, in my opinion, but they've also let everybody know our future's not in Bitcoin. It's in power, energy, high performance computing. And most of these companies, I think all of these companies will at least be a hybrid of Bitcoin mining and high performance computing. And I think a lot of these companies will abandon ship altogether on Bitcoin mining. If not now, then before the next halving. You're going to have to be good at what you do to mine Bitcoin in the next halving. That's just the bottom line. Because what has happened is the global hash rate has gone up drastically between halvings, and it's going up faster than the price of Bitcoin is going up. Now, if we have to George's point, if 2026 is a grand slam home run, we have a God candle type of a situation, we get up to 175,000 or 200,000, then all of a sudden the math changes dramatically on this. Right now, all of a sudden you're minting money mining Bitcoin instead of struggling. But most of these companies are still, even at these prices, they're still cash flow positive mining their Bitcoin. Some of them aren't profitable, but they're cash flow positive, which means they can keep mining, get cash, and put it to use CapEx wise on building out their high performance computing data centers. And that's what a lot of them are doing. That's where this industry is at right now, period. Do us a favor and smash the like button. It was a half day trading in the US today. It was a holiday yesterday, and it was a great week. It's funny, when we have awful weeks, we seem to have a lot more people here. When we have a great week, I guess everybody just feels good and they go party once the market's closed.
Seems like a good idea to me.
Are we in a recession? So here's the results so far. In first place, 44%, 40 fluctuating, 46%, no. And next year will be better. Very close to half. 11%, yes, but it will end in the first quarter. So 57% think we're already out of a recession and it's going to get better, or we're very near the end and then it's going to get better. But we're split. Yes, we're in the middle of a recession, 22%. No, but next year is going to be worse, 22%. So
it's funny, 50-50 seems to be the new norm. on our polls. You know that?
50, and this has been going on for months. This is the uncertainty that's in the market. This is the FUD that's out there. Every article saying the 4-year cycle is over. This bad thing's happening. That bad thing is happening. This technical indicator says we're doomed, et cetera, et cetera. And it's causing this massive conflict.
What do you think, Tom?
I think this is a 35% pullback in the middle of a bull market. And
no, about the economy.
About the economy and a recession? No, yeah. I don't think we're in a recession. I don't think I think we had our recession a couple of years ago. And we were blatantly in the middle of a huge recession, and then the government kind of changed the definition of what a recession is and said, no, we're actually not even in a recession. When it was, inflation was at 9%, right? Wages were not keeping up with inflation, not even close. So cost of living was getting destroyed. All of the normal earmarks of a recession. So I don't see those happening right now. Inflation, I don't know why this is bad news. It should be good news. Inflation is low right now. Historically speaking, the average for the last 50, 60 years, inflation is lower than the 50-year average. It is not the 2.0 price target that the Fed has on it. But that is way below the reality of what's happened for the last 50 or 60 years. We're at between 2.5% and 3%. Oil is going down. There's 5 articles I read in the last 2 days about how oil is going to go down significantly in 2026. It's just a supply-demand thing. The amount of supply that's coming online is going to dictate that oil is going to tank. So it's already way down. I think I may have this.
And my question is where is the sweet spot for oil? And I think it's between 50 and 60, by the way.
Well, and we're between 50 and 60 right now. And don't be surprised if we don't retest 40 like we did 5 or 6 years ago.
I see 38, 39. So.
Right. Let's not forget there was one day where they were paying people like $50 a barrel to take oil.
I know, I tried to do it.
So that's how, it was for a flash. That was kind of a flash crash type of a thing. But that's when oil did consistently get, it was down near $40 a barrel or less for a long time. And I think that's what that's what the big money is looking at 2026 and saying, we think oil's going to drop from this 55 to 60 level. It's already dropped from the 75 to 80 level down to 55 to 60. And I think they feel like it's going to drop down to 40 to 45. $45 oil, the world economy is very healthy. And there is no inflation because oil is the number one ingredient for inflation by a mile, not only as its own line item, but it affects every single line item on the entire CPI. So it's built in once and then it's built in again on every single line. So for as long as oil's under control, you're just not going to see runaway inflation. I don't know what the rest of you are experiencing around the world, but things have gotten, they're not great. Things have gotten better at the grocery store. Things have gotten better at the gas station. Those are the things that most regular people that have to go live their life, that's what that's what a recession is. I lost my job, or, I can't afford my groceries. I can't afford my gas. Those are the real world meaning of a recession. Technically, it's, are we going to go negative GDP, which I just can't imagine we're going to go negative GDP. I don't see that as a scenario. I think GDP is going to be very strong next year. That's my opinion. Call me an optimist. And George, you voted yes, but it's going to end in the first quarter.
Yeah, I think we're in a little. I mean, I how do you define a recession today? Because everything, changes.
Well, they
And
moved the
when people do,
goalposts.
yeah, you know what I mean. So the way I define a recession is still the old way. So I think we're in a little bit of a lull, and I think that people are having problems finding jobs. I think you're starting to see unemployment creep up, and I feel we're in a recession as we speak.
There's some big companies making some pretty decent rounds of layoffs. Unemployment's ticked up to 4.4%, which is higher than it's been in a long time. But historically speaking, that's basically the average. So,
Yeah, but Tom, I mean, they have redefined that
agreed.
whole unemployment number to such a degree that it's almost useless.
And then the inflation numbers are the same way. They've changed the definition so
Yeah.
much that we're all comparing apples to oranges. And they've changed it obviously in their favor. So, who knows what today's 4.4% unemployment, who knows if we had measured that using 10 years ago's method, what it would be. But I don't think it's spiraled out of control. And I think jobs will be in the US, and we're talking about wherever you are, you can assess your own country's economy. In the US, I think we're all the policy that we've got right now, we're lowering interest rates. We've ended quantitative tightening. We're going to start quantitative easing. We've incentivized. They just put out a bill that blanking on the name of it, but essentially the United States government is going to backstop. They put out an executive order that it's national security imperative. It's an economic imperative. It was three reasons why they are going to pump money into companies that are pursuing technological advancements in AI. So there is a backstop that just got created. Not that it needed one, because so much money's going into AI right now. It's crazy, but it's about to get bigger because they haven't even started handing out the money. They just this week signed a bill that this is a national security issue. We can't lose the AI game, or we're going to lose the economy game, and then eventually the national defense game, etc. That's right now, that's considered a domino, the first domino in what would be a domino effect of essentially losing world power status. So we are in my opinion, every stock on this board is in the sweet spot given that backdrop right there, regardless of what Bitcoin does. Bitcoin running, which I think it will, is going to be a bonus on top of all of that.
All I know is I'm starting to bid out government contracts for crazy stuff. And there's a lot of opportunities coming next year.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of opportunities.
Thank you, JD. Genesis. That's the name of the initiative.
But there's another reason why I think we're kind of in a recession, Tom, is because of the administration's pullback of the amount of money that was being floated out into the economy that's no longer there. It's a very sizable amount of money.
It is.
And no one's even talking about it. And, it's like now there's kind of like standards on Snap. That affects Coca-Cola, that affects Pepsi, that affects the chip companies, that affects everybody. It affects McDonald's, it affects Burger King. When you start looking at those things, that's real dollars not going into their pockets.
Yes. To my point, we're about to move into the opposite world.
But that was the reason why I'm saying that. That's why you see there's always going to be a percentage of people that struggle in the economy, but it seems like it's just a little bit higher right now. Oh, and somebody asked me who John Solano. I'm not a very I have not really followed Solano too much, and I'm gonna be honest with you. It's a Solano XRP game, and I went the XRP route. So I'm not. I mean, Solano's still a great project, and supposedly, did they work out a deal with Swift to do something with on Solano, which is like backdoor off of the network? I heard something to that effect.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, Robin. Yeah, people are living off their credit cards. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know. We haven't talked about that at all lately, but we had the highest credit card debt coming into this year, 25. And I would hope some people have paid it down. I know I paid down some of mine.
Well, and I think people are going to get checks in the mail in 2026. So
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's a part of the program. I would be super surprised if checks weren't coming in the mail. And the last time that happened, and it's a rare event to not only be in a zero interest, here's the difference. In the last halving, we were in a zero interest rate environment. They were quantitative easing. They were printing money like it was going out of style. And they were printing checks and mailing them to everyone in America. That last pool of money and the middle one caused a small cap stock bubble that was an obvious, blatant, massive bubble. They're now talking about an AI bubble, but anybody that does a little bit of research and a deep dive will see we're just simply not, by any matter of the definition of a bubble, we're just not in one with the AI stocks. They are performing massive amounts of revenue, massive amounts of net income. Now, are there some at the fringes that people are taking a big risk on? That's always the case. But, what are the big AI companies? Part of the thing is, some of the big AI companies are the biggest companies in the world, which are now monstrously huge. So even I'll give you an example. Google is on a tear. It almost hit $4 trillion the other day. It's catching up to NVIDIA. NVIDIA's pulling back. And one of the reasons is that Google has their own AI chip that's now competing with NVIDIA's. And, one of the things that moved the needle last week was Meta or Facebook put in an order for Google's chips. So all of a sudden you've seen a massive shift. Google's doubled. And they were already one of the biggest companies in the world. So we know NVIDIA 10x'd to become the biggest company in the world. But they're not at 1,000 PE, right? They're at like a 40 PE. So the previous bubbles you look at, and I would encourage people to look at two in specific, and then I'm going to show you an article next talking about one of them. If you look at the .com bubble, right, that's probably the most famous bubble in history. The NASDAQ got destroyed to the point where it took 15 years for the NASDAQ to get back to where it was at the peak of the .com bubble in 2000. But I would also encourage you to look at the EV bubble. There were 25 or 30 EV companies, maybe more, that were trading in a bubble, and they're all down between 90 and 99% right now, other than the ones that are down 100% because they're out of business. And that's what happens at the end of a bubble because things are that far overpriced. There's not one stock I can find right now that looks like that in the AI space, but I do want to go, I'm going to find that article next because this person makes an argument and they do a bait and switch in the middle and they know it. I know that gotcha. I believe they know it.
They got you.
Well, they're give me a minute to try to find this.
Man, we have some really smart people in the chat, just so you guys know. I'm reading what Gary's writing, and Gary, I agree with you, by the way, about our middle classes getting smaller and smaller. And I think that's one of the things that makes the United States so great is because of our middle class. And it seems like we've kind of taken that for granted.
The last 20 years has been a nightmare for the middle class.
Yeah. Oh, and I have a crazy one, guys, and I'm just going to tell you this one. I believe it, and I'm not selling it. And I know they got beat up. Hive is going to $100. You've heard it first from me.
Hive to 100.
I have decided that Hive and IREN, or Iris, whatever we call them, those are the ones. I think they win. I think Hive's going to win. That's not financial advice. It's stupid George talk. Because anybody that thinks Hive's going to $100 at $3.65, they've lost their marbles. Have you seen my marbles?
Sour Melon Gaming started talking about IREN going to 100 when it was at a point where that seemed laughable, and it ran up to 75. It's a little under 50 right now, and it's consolidating. I think that's turning into a buy. I'm in it at $6. I'm not buying anymore. I can't. I'm not going to dollar cost average in from $6. But I don't. But having said that, that's kind of a faulty mindset, because I do think it will run. It could still be the biggest bargain on this list.
Hive?
I'm talking about IREN, which it's $75. That was heavy. It's at $47.81 right now. And I think it's really starting to get into a buy zone again there.
I don't need another Johnny boat. I got one.
Hive's at 336. That's pulled way back. Bitfarms is at 348. That's actually run like the wind, but still way back from the over $6 it was a month ago. Most of these are starting to recover. They had a huge rally in October, and then they crashed in November, and now they're starting to recover. And you're going to see that when we look at the weekly charts. But let me go to this article right now. GMO warns AI is, quote, a classic investment bubble. Here's what to buy instead. GMO warns that AI stocks are exhibiting the classic signs of being in a bubble. Not true, in my opinion. The firm sees parallels to the dot-com bubble. For those of you who are members, I showed you the numbers from the dot-com bubble. It's apples. I can't even say it's apples and cyanide. It's not even apples and oranges. They're so different, it's ludicrous. Instead of AI, the firm likes development market, blah, blah, blah. So then they're telling you what else they want. But here's where they bait and switch. GMO has periodically warned of an AI bubble for years now. Well, how's that gone for them? They were calling for an AI bubble when NVIDIA was $100 million stock and it hit $5 trillion. So how's this call been working out for them? Now, as fears of overexuberance begin to grip the broader market, the famed asset management firm is reiterating its bearish call. AI looks like a classic investment bubble to us, with very high valuations and signs of rampant speculation. This came out in their quarterly newsletter. Investors are so desperate to get in early on the next big thing that they've bid up prices for quantum computing stocks 1,200%. Well, guess what? Those aren't AI stocks. And it's not a coincidence that he didn't pick some AI stocks to give an example of that. He had to leave the AI sector. Quantum computing, for those of you who don't know, is something totally different than high performance computing and AI. One of those things has nothing to do with the other. The quantum computing stocks are in a bubble, and actually they're past their bubble. Their bubble has popped and they're on the way down. those are companies that have almost no revenue. A lot of them don't even have a product, and they became $50 billion companies. That's a bubble. So he's talking about AI, and then he's pointing to quantum computing stocks. So don't be fooled, I guess. Do your own research, do your own due diligence. The more they talk about this AI bubble, I don't even think we've gotten started. I mean, I guess we've gotten started. We've had some nice runs up, but you're looking at, like, here, one of the big beneficiaries of AI has been Google, and they're trading at a 31 PE. Not 1,000, not 3,000, not 300. Right? Even NVIDIA, which is the number one AI play.
We're asked that question to everybody, Tom. Are AI stocks overvalued?
Great question. That's what's on the table. So NVIDIA's at a 43 PE ratio. So you might say, you know what? That's a little high. And it is. Tech stocks tend to be higher, but that's even high for a tech stock. But bubble territory isn't 43. It's 300, 400, 1,000. And mostly bubble territory is there's no PE ratio because the company doesn't even have any revenue and it's losing billions of dollars. That's a bubble. That's speculation. Hey, I think they're going to have a product. They're telling me about a product. They have a version of what someday they hope is going to be a prototype of their product, and they're worth $25 billion because if they're right, we're all going to win. That's speculation. This is not speculation. This is here.
Tom, I'm telling you, I don't think there's that many hedge funds watching right now, guys. Because it says RAI. There's like one person that said yes. Two people, maybe.
Well, smash the like button. We got a low audience today.
Yeah, this has been low.
I don't know if it's because it was a good week or if it's because it's a holiday week.
It's a holiday.
It's a holiday.
People don't think about Tom and George or George and Tom.
It's Black Friday. Everybody's shopping.
Think about Tom and Jerry. They're watching Tom and Jerry. The mice and the cat run around.
I'll tell you this, and this is another good sign. I was out and about, and parking lots, what have been half-empty parking lots, were filled. You could not find a spot today. And today is Black Friday, the first official shopping day of the holiday season. So, and in this town, I would not expect that, but that's...
I mean, in that town, I would...
Why?
Are you kidding me? Yes, I would expect that in that town. Or you just think because they have so much money, the
money in this town doesn't go to the mall.
Right.
Let's just put it that way. There's zero of those cars. Well, okay. Fair enough.
Listen, you're going to go to this place and you're going to get this for me. I follow this girl on TikTok that she caters to really wealthy people. And it is insane. The stuff that they make her do. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they have their own personal.
Yeah.
We had a customer we sold a house to. He was rich, but his job was just to be the personal servant to a rich person.
I love that.
That's how many levels of wealth there are out there in the world. Thank you, Mr. Zhang. If I pronounced that correctly, I appreciate it. So you guys we're going to vote on this and you can do your due diligence, but I'm just telling you, when you see articles like, leave it, and this is the one I happen to pick, but I lost it. That's what happened. But there's AI bubble. That's the new catchphrase of the last month. And I think it's going to continue because they're trying to still get their positions filled out in AI. And here's the thing. Here's the plainest statement that I think says it all. And this is why I think these energy plays, which are the Bitcoin mining / data center companies, are the best place to be. Because even if there's some winners and some losers, Elon Musk, whether you love him, whether you hate him, and most people it's one or the other, he just straight out said 1 year from now, there will be no more energy for AI companies. It will be a crisis. We will be in an energy crisis 1 year from now for AI technology.
I think we're in an energy crisis right now. Did you hear what just happened in Pennsylvania?
No.
In one town, I don't know which town it was now, it was going up like something like 60%, the cost of electric.
The cost of electric. Well, I mean, that's going to happen, but you're going to get different loads. Like, that's spilling over into, regular energy, commercial, residential. That's going to be the last thing that gets hit. The first thing that's going to get hit is a shortage in data centers, because the infrastructure exists to send energy to houses and businesses. And they're not going to, a company that does that, they don't have a flexible load where they can switch it on and off like the Bitcoin miners do. Bitcoin miners can turn every machine off they want if the grid needs the load. AI, high performance computing companies cannot do that. They need that load 24/7. They need 99.999% uptime.
You know what's crazy, Tom? And no one's talking about this. Do you know how much Bitcoin mining helped the whole infrastructure of the electric to go into AI? I mean, no one talks about this. It was absolutely so important that happened the way it did, that would be so much farther behind right now.
Yeah, and it's funny because all the way along as that was happening, everybody was railing against the Bitcoin miners as energy consumer monsters that are killing the earth, right? We were the poster child for ESG, which is gone, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
here's how gone ESG is. New York City wants to take their pension fund out of BlackRock because BlackRock is not adhering to New York City's ESG guidelines. And if you remember, 2 years in a row, Fink led with ESG in his annual letter for BlackRock. They were ESG, and they've given up. And that doesn't mean everybody wants to waste energy and green is dead. People want to be responsible and do a good job. They don't want to be fanatical. That's the difference.
I mean, it's so interesting because you think about that. New York is having a major power problem already because Canada stopped allowing the power to come from them to the, which is funny because I thought that was a 50-50 split, by the way, at Niagara Falls.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's obviously a lot of hydropower right there.
But yeah, so maybe the turn didn't happen, but that was the talk. I've never heard anything more about it. Hello, Kyle.
If I was New York City, I would not want to pick a fight with BlackRock's $13.6 trillion.
Yeah, BlackRock's going to win that fight.
New York has $34 billion in a retirement fund that they want to pull from BlackRock to punish them. Well, that's not punishing them. That's significantly less than 1% of BlackRock's holdings. And if anybody wants to punish anybody, BlackRock can say, goodbye, New York Stock Exchange.
You know what's funny, Tom? I wonder if it's because we're from Rochester, New York originally, that we really get along with people from Canada.
Yeah, I mean,
really do. I have tons of friends I talk to all the time from Canada. I just say it's a boot time.
We grew up very, very close to the border, and we grew up in a time where crossing the border
Was easy.
didn't mean anything. You didn't
Right.
need your you didn't even need your driver's license. You just crossed the border. Hey, we're going. What are you going over? We're going to party. Oh, have fun.
We had some great times in Canada, guys. Love Canada.
Absolutely.
Can't say enough good things about Canada. I'm gonna be honest. Sorry. I always get off on the tangent. Our AI stocks, we got 17%. We got an 80-20 going here, Tom.
Okay. I'm glad. I'm very encouraged to see that, because I think they're pushing so hard that we're in an AI bubble, and get out now, get out while you can. And you know why they do that. The more of those you see, you know. And then if you do your research, even if you don't know it, if you do your research, you'll figure it out. Right? Our companies are trading at PEs of like 5, 8, 12, 15. That's a bubble? No, that's not a bubble. They have revenue, they have growth. Most of these companies are pushing, 100% growth year over year for multiple years. Like, that's the ultra high end of growth. Right? Companies that have annual 15% growth year over year, those are considered high growth stocks, and they get priced PEs accordingly. We're looking at companies that have potentially 100% year over year growth. So, for instance, like Google's been a high growth company for a long time. But you can see 14% growth this year, 13.5% next year. This is considered a high growth, very strong. And you would be surprised, or you wouldn't be if you've done the math, how fast 15% annual growth adds up. And, if you have a stock that has 15% annual growth and they're holding their gross profit margins, and a lot of these companies are improving their gross profit margins while they do this, then you've got a company that's a grand slam home run. But if we go to a company like CleanSpark just reported, let's see if they have any of that updated. CleanSpark was up 12% today. We're going to go look at the charts and see what everything did, because we have not looked at that yet. So I think we should do that next. CleanSpark's PE is 13. That's a bubble? If that's a bubble, then they must have redefined what a bubble is.
See how many people bought CleanSpark under $10. I'm going to do that poll.
So CleanSpark's got showing projected 14% growth year over year this year, and they have a fiscal year that's not the calendar year. So when you see 26 and 27, that really is 25 and 26, and 12.5% growth next year. This does not factor in the fact that they have made a switch to high performance computing. I would expect these numbers to be more like 30% and then probably 75%, I'm going to say, in 2027. So that's my personal opinion. I don't know the future. Not financial advice, but that's what I would expect. And if you look, let's go to some other ones here, like let's see. So TeraWulf. Now I will tell you, TeraWulf's given up on Bitcoin mining. they still mine Bitcoin. Their fleet is half the size it was 6 months ago, and it's going to be gone as soon as the last machine's not profitable anymore. They couldn't care less about Bitcoin mining. And again, this was a company that was going to ramp up and be one of the big Bitcoin miners, but there's a power company that owns TeraWulf to begin with. So they're already knee deep in power. So here, this year, 26% growth. Next year, 133% growth. That's TeraWulf's estimate. And I'm guessing that's low, because I'll be surprised if they only have $400 million in revenue in 2026. So I think they're already on the low side. This year ago sales, 140. I don't know where they get. Oh, they're grabbing this 176 as the estimate. But you can see the high end is 600 million. I wouldn't be surprised if they go past the high end on revenue. Now, they have them not making money, so I have to dig a little more into what that's all about, because these companies in particular with smaller market caps and with a lot of non-cash items on their balance sheet that affect the income statement, a lot of times you got to look at their EBITDA, not their GAAP profitability. In any event, there's a company that's looking at 100% growth. CIFR, I imagine, is another one.
But think about this. They drove CleanSpark down to under $10, and now it's 15. That's a 50% increase in what, 2 weeks?
Guess what?
What?
For it. 1 week. This is this week.
1 week. Yeah, 1 week.
CleanSpark's up. Perfect transition, George. Thank you. CleanSpark's up 55% this week. What's the difference between CleanSpark this Friday and CleanSpark last Friday, when everyone was in a pure panic and it was the end of the world? That's what last Friday's stream was. Yep. It's all over. We're all screwed. Now, since then, I mean, look at this week for the Bitcoin miners. Now, granted, you're going to look at the month and it's ugly. So the 3 weeks before this were horrible. But this is the volatility you get in these types of stocks. Bitcoin up 7%. Nice recovery, nice bounce off the bottom. I think we're only just getting going. IREN, which is the biggest by market cap by far, was the lagger this week. It's been out ahead, for most of the rest of the year. So it lagged a little bit behind. At the other end of the spectrum, CleanSpark up 55%. They put out earnings. Find the surprise. Somebody put in the comments a surprise they found in the earnings report, and you won't be able to because there weren't any. So there was no new information. They performed just exactly how we expected them to perform, and they're up 55% in 1 week. I mean, this is good performance for most people that buy regular stocks. This is a good 3 years. That's what they did. That's what CleanSpark did this week. Oh, by the way, CIFR 44%, Bitfarms 43%. On last Friday's stream, Sour Melon Gaming was talking about Bitfarms is going under $1. They're going to have to do a reverse stock split. And now they're back to $3.50. 1 week later. Now, to be fair, he was half joking about that because, we've been talking about that for years. That's a member. TeraWulf up 37%. Hut 31%. BitDR up 30%. Riot up 27%. Marathon lagged the field. And again, I've been buying. Marathon is just lagging. Marathon up 17. Hive 16. IREN 13. So that's the week. Let's look at the month because November's now over for the equities. November was not pretty. We have had 5 phenomenal months in a row. Some of them were kind of off the charts good. November was a disaster. This chart right here, bear in mind, we just looked at the last week of November and it was an A++. Even after that recovery, we still had almost every single Bitcoin miner in the red, some of them down dramatically. Bitcoin did not do well in November, down 17% despite a 7% run up this last week. So we've bounced off of the bottom, but we're nowhere near the top. And then you've got companies like BitDR down 40%. I can't tell you one reason why BitDR is down 40%. Hive down 35%. Marathon down 35%. Marathon was already lagging every single one of these companies year to date. And it's still finished had one of the worst Novembers out of any of them. To me, these are all buying opportunities. So I'm going to go to year to date and put this in perspective because
it's worth taking a picture of, guys. And I think that's going to be the inverse next year.
Yeah. Well, let's take, this is the month of November. I'm going to go year to date right now, 2025. So a month and a half ago, this was significantly, this is still very good. Now, Bitcoin's down 3%. That's not good, right? Bitcoin was up 20%. It's now down 3% over the last 6 weeks versus, its highs. Look at Marathon. While you've got IREN up 387%. While you've got CIFR up 339%. Marathon's down 30% on the year, and BitDR's down 38% on the year. So all I can tell you is, in my opinion, and these are two that I've been buying, and here's the next one, the outliers are Hive, and then much more so Marathon and BitDR.
Just so you know, I'm giving Marathon a finger right now. Can you figure out what finger I'm giving it?
I got a really good guess.
Just so you know, I'm not saying anything disparate, just giving him a finger.
So, TeraWolf up 170. And remember, these are after big pullbacks. TeraWolf up 174%. Bitfarms is still up 134%. If you timed this perfectly, you caught a 10x in Bitfarms in the middle. Now, that would be incredible luck. By the way, if you time this perfectly, you caught a lot more than that on IREN. IREN went from $4 to $75 on its low to high of the year. So there are some people. I am fortunate. I entered my IREN position all at once at $6. So that was very fortunate. I'm not touching it because I think IREN has so much further to run. It's just had a big pullback, but again, I'm in it at $6. Just it pulled back to $48. That's an 800% move to the upside. So I'm not worried about it. And I think it's got a lot of room to run.
See, this girl's not watching today. Katie, are you here? Because today's the day that she should be watching. Everybody pisses and moans on the bad days,
Yeah, we had some serious hate working in the chat last week, and last week was rough. Listen, this is last week.
It was so rough. I went and jumped off the bridge and landed in the water and lived. That's how rough it was, guys.
We've had a couple in a row. This was last week. TeraWolf was the only one green. Everything else red. Marathon in last place. This was 2 weeks ago. This was even worse. This week was BitDR was down 52% 2 weeks ago. Bitfarms down 30%. Hive 30%. Cleanspark 30%. CIFR 31%. This is irrational. But that's why I'm saying you got to have conviction because these irrational moves happen. But so how is it that 2 weeks ago Cleanspark plummeted 30%, but this week it's up 55%? Right? It's irrational. Don't expect the market to be rational. It's not. I don't know if it used to be, right? There was the efficient market theory that people went under for decades and decades and decades. But the way the market works, the way trading happens now is so drastically different than the way it happened in 1985 or 1955. It's a different world. The market is not efficient. It's irrational. And you got to have the conviction to hold it. What the sentence I would add to that is, I do believe if you wait long enough, your stock will intersect with its fair market value. So if you've got a great company and you hold on, I believe at one point it will reflect its value. But I don't know when that point is, right? 2 weeks ago, if I was looking at CleanSpark, I'd go, this is an absolute disaster. It's 2 weeks later, it's up 55% in a week. Here's BitDR down 52% in a week. These are crazy moves. This is why everybody gets out. This is why people buy high, sell low, lose money. And then they leave the space altogether. Who owns all the stock? The hedge funds owned all these stocks now. And they're going to get the run up.
Tom, you should feel proud, because I would like to think that this is a reflection of you right here, buddy. Did you buy CleanSpark under $10? And over 15 people said yes. Under $10, sorry.
Nice.
You know?
We were.
I mean, you think about it. That was you. I remember you going, "What are you, out of your mind?" I remember.
I was.
Because I think it got someplace in the nines. I don't remember where exactly.
It got
I don't think
under
it broke
$9. I'm going to go to the chart.
Yeah,
There was Marathon, Riot, and CleanSpark on the same day, not at the exact same moment, on the same day, all traded at $9 at one point. And it's like,
I remember you saying that.
This is stupidity. Now you've got Riot at $16. Marathon, which is underperforming, is at almost $12. CleanSpark at $15. But if you go to this, I mean, look, on this day, November 21st, that's 1 week ago, this stock was $9.06. $9.06 1 week ago.
And yeah, right in the chat, what's the lowest somebody bought CleanSpark at? Not what you averaged in at. What'd you get it at?
What was your best get? My best had a 9 in front of it, but it wasn't $9.06. But I did buy some in the 9s of all three of those stocks, Marathon, Riot, and CleanSpark.
I just remembered Riot at was it like $3?
Well, it depends how far back you go. A lot of these stocks were, CleanSpark was $1.74 in the middle of the crypto winter.
All right, welcome to Talkin.
Sour Melon Gaming, welcome. Member for 33 months. Happy Thanksgiving, gents. Thankful for you two. Happy 33 months. Made first purchase since April. Last Friday, added CleanSpark sub 10. Go wow. CleanSpark. Nice job, Sour Melon Gaming. That was a massive buying opportunity. It's already played itself out. Even if it goes no further, it's up 55% from there. So that was good timing.
And I mean, that doesn't happen in the stock market. That's what people don't understand. That's such an outlier.
Yeah, this is This is the ultimate volatility.
The only thing that sucks is when you need money, and I needed money, and I had to get out, and I'm still out because I'm an idiot and I'm building a house. Most people get a loan. I didn't do that. I'm an idiot.
Get back in. It's not too late. I'm looking at Pogo. What about Tattooed Chef? And then,
Tattooed Chef. On you.
So, well, here. Go back and look at my videos. For a year, I did videos. Tattooed Chef has a huge problem. Everybody else was tattooed. My very first video was, wow, there's a lot. They had just gotten a contract at Walmart and Target. So they weren't on the shelves yet. Well, guess what? When they got on the shelves, nobody liked their food. So my very first video was, look at the pipeline that they just created for themselves. By my second or third video, it was, something is very seriously wrong at Tattooed Chef. there's a problem, you know, and obviously it's never financial advice, but I was telling you guys, I'm out. Something's wrong here. And it crashed and it's gone. They're gone now. If you're looking at the details, and that's a perfect example of sometimes you have to pivot, right? Because the first time I looked, it's like, wow, these are if there's two stores they wanted to get into, it's Walmart and Target. They just got into both of them. This is trending in the right direction, but then all of a sudden, nobody bought any of their stuff. So now, no reorders. Sales were down. Gross margin was down quarter after quarter after quarter. And it became obvious. So that is why you have to do your due diligence. And that's why you have to continue to do your due diligence, because the story on stocks can change, especially, you know, that was a small company, high growth, highly speculative pick. It was pretty popular among investors at the time. But most people got killed on that one. And, you know, I lost a little bit of money, but I got the heck out because it became obvious something was dramatically wrong. Unfortunately. Oh, Pogo saying Jeremy really shilled it. I stopped watching him after he pushed a bunch of garbage and then flipped to Meta and some other big companies while I was stuck in his low cap S. Damn you, Jeremy. So he's one of the very few people, and you're right, Pogo. He got, and I think he would be the first person to admit this. And he was one of the first people. I think financial education, I think, is his channel's name. I still watch him at least once a week. And you got to take everything with a grain of salt, just as I expect you to take our show with a grain of salt. But he's been right on a lot of things, but he was so wrong on the tattooed chef. It was insanity. And he doubled down. He tripled down. Go ahead.
How big is his channel?
He's got like 1 million subscribers.
Dude, I rest my case. Dude, this is impressive. Gary won at $1.75 with CleanSpark. And then he said he bought IREN also cheap. Dude, that's impressive.
Yeah, I know some of you guys, you know, it's frustrating having a pullback like we've had, but I know there's a lot of our members especially that got into these at great, great prices. So you still never like to have a 35% pullback, but it's a lot easier to stomach when you're up 400%. I've seen Jeremy get headstrong a couple of times. In general, I think he's been a very successful investor, but that's the most wrong he's ever been about everything. And I will also say, I think he made a very emotional decision on Tesla. He dumped all of his Tesla. And if you watch that video, in my opinion, every argument that he made to sell Tesla was the identical arguments he was making to buy Tesla. I think he just got, you know, Elon Musk, he got mad at, and that's just a syndrome out there. People make emotional, and he's somebody who's doing this a long time. He should know better than to make emotional decisions, but I guess everybody's susceptible to that, and I certainly can't disparage him. He's been extremely successful on YouTube. And JD saying Rex Finance pumped tattooed chef too. Well, I would, for those of you who have the time, which is probably none of you because you have more important things to do with your life, go back and look at my videos the same time they were putting out their videos, because I was throwing every red flag I knew how to throw on the tattooed chef, saying, I mean, to say the handwriting on the wall was the understatement of all time. Doug, how far is asking me, how far out are you on your Bitfarms options, in the money or out? Thanks. Most of my Bitfarms options expire in January, but I am deeply in the money. My options are at 50 cents, $1, and $1.50. And I bought those all for pennies. I intend to convert them all. I intend to exercise all those options, which is why I'm not worried that we're getting close to them running. Ordinarily, this would be about time. It's getting a little close. We're at the end of November and these expire in the middle of January, but I'm going to convert them. I am going to exercise the option on all of my Bitfarms and buy the stock. I'm going to be able to spend pennies on the dollar to get a lot of shares of Bitfarms.
And Tom, how many times have you done that?
This will be the first time I've ever converted an option. Usually I try to I'm either right or I cut my losses. I take my win or I take my loss. But this ran so far past, right? I mean, my 50-cent options, Bitfarms is at $3.50. I can go buy, 10,000 shares of it at 50 cents. So I'm going to do that because I don't think they're done. I think the worst is behind them, and they now have a plan that makes sense again. We're going to see if they can execute it. There's always execution risk, right? Because, great, they got a great plan. If they don't do their plan, they're going to fail. I have confidence in Ben. Say whatever you want. I think they're back on the right track.
I will say that I see a $10 Bitfarms next year.
I agree, George.
Well, I'm just letting you know. I'm not saying when, but I see it. Not financial advice.
I don't.
George, stupid comments.
Hey, everybody knows none of this is financial advice, and everybody's
gotta say it.
You're right, but it's everybody. It's your money. I don't like to let options get this close to expiring. And like I said, if I wasn't going to exercise the options, I would have taken my profits by now. I would have taken my profits a while ago. At one point, I was up well over 1,000% on all my Bitfarms options.
Wow.
I'm still up 500, 600, 700%. So
would you say this has been your best year ever in options, Tom?
Yes.
Because I would say that it is, because just by knowing.
Yeah, this has been my best options year. And I don't.
Do you think it's because you dialed into this one industry and you're staying on which is now kind of turning into AI?
Yeah, I think some of it is definitely, it's the right place at the right time. But I also think I've definitely over the last 24 months really changed my options strategy into buying leap options in the money versus taking more risk and trying to hit a home run on options, because it's too hard on those short time frames.
Doug, don't be saying things that, you know what I mean? Because I'm telling you, Bitfarms to $10 seems relatively easy to me now. You know that, right? I mean, Bitfarms to $10 is not.
It was at $6 6 weeks ago. Is it that hard to believe it's going to 10?
Once they go to domicile to the United States, are they still doing that, Tom?
That's coming to you in 2026.
Yeah. It is funny, though. This is a great example, though, of this, and I say this all the time. And this even shows you with these big companies, no matter what the plan is, they never, ever achieve their plans or their goals, or something happens. Just like somebody just had a major fire in one of their locations. Who was that?
Oh, who had a fire? But you know what? It didn't, there was no high performance computing equipment on site.
But
It was
my
one of
whole
the high
point-
performance computing guys. I can't remember which one.
My whole point is this: no one ever plans for a fire.
Right.
You can take all the plans you want, and you can hope that they come true, but most likely they don't.
And
They
that's
become somewhere in that range, you know what I mean? But they never do exactly what they say they're going to do.
This is why I like monthly updates, and I'm disappointed that almost all Bitcoin miners have dropped them. I'll go to that list next and show you who's dropped them, because you're giving us a plan and then you're giving us a monthly update. How am I doing on my plan? And those companies that are honest and they change their plans according to what's happening, the market rewards them. There's IREN is an extreme example. They never even changed their plan. They're the outlying example of they set a ridiculously challenge. I laughed at their goal when they set it, and they hit it spot on. So, that's an outlier. I think CleanSpark did a great job of either hitting their goal or giving very timely updates on, some minor delays that were going to occur along the way. But I think they have not been rewarded, even at, they're up 55% this week, so it's hard to say they're not doing well, but they're at $15, right? I mean, they were at $23, almost $24 a month and a half ago. And that's nowhere near, in my opinion, where I think this stock should be. But you can see just under $25, there's a pretty decent line of resistance, so I would at least expect to test that, but that's not even really, I'm still looking at $40 for CleanSpark. So again, I think the companies that have diversified, which is most of these, some of them are ahead of others, and so they're going to get there a lot faster. IREN here, I want to go back and do one more thing. You're wondering why IREN did so much better than everybody else. This year's year-over-year growth, 125%. Next year's projection, 134%. This company, and they did more than that. This will be if they do these two things, that'll be 3 years in a row of more than 100% growth on the top line. And they're making money. 35 cents a share. Average estimate, that was a year ago, $1 this year, $1.10 next year. And I think it's going to be a lot more than $1.10 next year, because their AI contracts are going to get a lot of these people that have given these estimates. There's 11 analysts, and a lot of them have not updated what they think is going to happen for the gigantic contract that IREN just got. So, some of them have, because you can see next year's at $2.7 billion of revenue. Like last year, they were at $100 million of revenue. So they're going to go from $100 million to almost $3 billion in 2 years. And they will have only tapped a very small percent of their energy into AI, even at $3 billion of revenue. They could 10x their revenue from there. So they should 10x their, not in 1 year, but in the next 3 years after that. So this is why this company's running like it is. When you're looking at a company that has a 3, 4, 5 year run of, between 80 and 150% growth year over year, that's those numbers compound astronomically. And this is the highest growth of all the growth stocks. But you're going to see some other companies on our list get big contracts and start to look a little bit more like these IREN numbers look. Robin's saying Bitfarms is my largest position. So depending if you dollar cost averaged in along the way, you're probably up big in that position. So I don't know. Everybody's in at a different price point. Oh, thank you. AMRS said it was BitDeer that caught a fire. So I could not remember who it was. So it was BitDeer. BitDeer's one I've been still dollar cost averaging into. It's one I think is grossly undervalued. Let's see what they say about BitDeer. So it was up 5.8% today. And then I want to show you two other things. So here you go. BitDeer, 70% growth expected this year, 102% growth expected next year. And this stock is down on the year. It's down. That's not a bubble. In a bubble, companies that have this kind of growth are, $50 billion companies. This is a $2 or $3 billion company. Right? This is
20 on this poll, Tom.
80-20 again. This is just under a $3 billion company. To me, it's not hard to imagine this being a $30 billion company. When they have, next year they're going to have over $1 billion in revenue, and they're growing at 100% on the top line. Those are companies I'm interested in buying. And they're a diversified company. They've ramped up their Bitcoin mining to 41 exahash from like 13 very quickly in a 6-month period of time. And at the same time, they're building out their high performance computing infrastructure. They have a huge pipeline of energy, and they make their own Bitcoin mining machines. So they've cut out the middleman on that. Monday update in the market or down. 80-20, so up and away. So let me show you, that's perfect poll, George, because what I wanted to show everybody was this Monday. So this week started out with a bang. ABTC being the outlier, the only thing that's in red. But if you look at some of these numbers, Marathon up 11%, Riot 9%, Cleanspark up 18%, IREN almost 15%, CIFR 18%, BitDeer 11%, TerraWolf almost 12%, Bitfarms almost 15%, HUT 14%, Hive 11%, Core Scientific just a little under 7%, and that was the lagger in the group. Bitcoin was up 5%, but that includes the whole weekend. So this was a big leap. Monday, we got off to a great start this week. So this was Monday, and, if you look, this is Friday. Other than IREN, which, again, is up so drastically year to date that, yes, it lagged a little bit this week. But Cleanspark, 12%. Riot, 7.8%. Marathon, 6.3%. CIFR, over 6%. BitDeer, almost 6%. TerraWolf, 4.5%. Bitfarms up over 12%. HUT, 6%. Hive, 5%. I mean, Monday was out of this world, Friday was out of this world, and most of the days in between were anywhere from good to great. And that resulted, that's why if you go to the week, you end up with a week like this, with stocks up 30, 40, 50% on the week. And it looks like...
He's going to do another poll. Give me 4 companies to choose from, Tom. It's so hard to just choose on the 4. Which the best bet?
Value. So I'm going to go off of this chart right here. And let's say BitDeer, Marathon, and I'm just picking the bottom 4. Hive and Riot. Those are the 4 worst performing Bitcoin miners of 2025. Riot's not really fair. It's kind of neck and neck with Cleanspark, way ahead of the other 3. I did my buying rampage on Hive. So I'm not dollar cost averaging into that right now. But for as long as they're going to keep Marathon like this. Oh, and I want to lead this. So if you take a look at Marathon, it's down 30% in 2025. If we go to last year, it was down 29% in 2024. This is a 2-year, they're having their own little crypto winter. Down 30% last year, down 30% this year. By the way, they went from like 8 exahash to 60 exahash in that time frame. Their balance sheet is a fortress. They own over 53,000 Bitcoin. They own the second most amount of Bitcoin of any publicly traded company in the world. They're not even valued at the price of the Bitcoin they own right now. Not to mention the almost $1 billion they have in the bank in cash. So whether you love this company or you hate them, to me, you know, back-to-back years of being down 30% in the middle of what is, you know, Bitcoin's up 122% last year. So that's why that, you know, that's one, and this is just one of 1,000 ways to look at this. But that's why I try, and the more ways we look at it, the more ways a potential opportunity presents itself. And there's never a guarantee, right? Maybe Marathon's going to fail. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not, that's not what my portfolio is betting on. But it is
right now,
it's my only stock in the red, and it's deep in the red.
But knowing now, looking for opportunities, Tom, for me, I think I'm going to buy some BitDR come Monday because knowing they're taking advantage of that fire.
Yeah.
Because they were on their way. What's his name? Oh, what's that guy's name who always talks about BitDR? He's not
Midway?
Is it? Yeah, Midway. Come on, Midway. Killing me.
And Mr.
Here's
Zhang.
the thing, I know they watch it later, so how you doing, Midway? Hope you're doing well.
Hello, Midway, if you join us later. Mr. Zhang, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I always forget the pronunciation. Says, Tom, which is a better buy right now, Marathon or BitDR? Well, those are the two that I am continuing to dollar cost average into right now. So you've given me a very hard choice. I think it's super close to me. Those, if you're buying two, those are the two I'm buying. If you had to pick one, man, I almost feel like I could flip-flop on this so badly. I think BitDR has a little bit more energy in the pipeline. And so I would probably say BitDR, but just, I mean, going back to the chart I was just showing, I mean, Marathon's down 30% on the year and BitDR's down 38% on the year. Last year, BitDR was up 120%. So if you take those 2 years put together, BitDR's dramatically outperforming Marathon. So from that perspective, but it's still under $3 billion market cap. And Marathon is now, did it get back to 5 yet or no? Let's take a look. Up $4.5 billion market cap. So this is ridiculous. This market cap is lower than it was. Well, it's lower than it was 2 years ago. They're 3, 4, 5 times as big a company, and their market cap's down. Let's see what their growth has been. So 46% year over year this year, and they're estimating 20% year over year next year. So this is a massive growth company. It's not IREN. It's not over 100% both years. But, you know, when you compare this to most of the, remember when we looked at Google or Alphabet, which has basically doubled, it's at a 13% year over year growth rate. That's impressive. So when you see these kinds of numbers, these are small cap, high growth to ultra high growth stocks. You're going to get volatility with that. And the ones that win, you're going to get big wins. The ones that lose, maybe some of these lose. Who knows? Gary's saying Jason has hit $84 million salary at Riot. Fred around $40 million. Two highest paid CEOs of mining companies. Those are astronomical numbers. I'm not even going to fight the machine anymore. I used to say, well, I don't, as long as a lot of that compensation is in stock. And so, in theory, that should align their interest with my interest. But you know what? I mean, these are companies that have underperformed. And, there's Fortune 500 companies where the CEOs don't make anywhere near that much money. So that is a lot of money. I gotta say.
I need to sneak out. It was great. Had a lot of fun with you guys.
All right, we're going to wrap it up as well. So thank you, George. Enjoy your weekend.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. Go Bitcoin. Let's look at the poll. What is the best buy right now? So this is a very tight poll. Marathon and Hive are tied at 30%. BitDR at 22%. Riot at 17%. So we have a tie. We ended on a tie. Oh, we now have a winner. I'm ending it. Hive is the winner. So let's see what Bitcoin is doing. Oh, I did want to mention another thing worth mentioning, and I have a lot we didn't get to. Hope maybe I can save some of it for next week. Microstrategy. I was way off on this one. 2 weeks ago, they bought 8,000 Bitcoin. That was a breakout for them because you could see they'd gone months and months without even buying 1,000 in a week. Last week, with the dip that there was, I thought MicroStrategy would be all in. I thought they were going to go buy 8,000 or 10,000 Bitcoin. They bought zero. So this was a surprise to me. The Bitcoin, all of whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana or whatever, XRP, all of these treasury companies have had a very, very, very bad run. And, I'll take a look. You can see their MNAV is down to 1.13. So, 1 should be a floor. It could get worse than that theoretically, but it should be a floor. So this was over 3. So this was a $543 stock 1 year and 1 week ago, and it's now, 170 something, $177 stock. So this has gotten decimated, as have all of the treasury companies. But that doesn't mean that they're going to get decimated forever. I would argue that as these approach 1 on that MNAV number, and that's what I would look for, they could start to be a buy and they might get another turn. I don't know. I'm not in them. It's not financial advice. You guys, can decide for yourself. I feel more comfortable in some of the other stuff or the ETFs directly. But this could be a bottoming out process for them. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us on our Friday live stream. I hope you guys had a good holiday for those of you who had the day off yesterday. And for everybody, I hope you enjoy your weekend. For the members, I hope to see you on Tuesday after the market closes. Go Bitcoin. Have a great weekend.